Hello and welcome to Digesting the Soul. Today I'm going to be sharing with you a topic that is near and dear to my heart, and that is prophetic dreaming. I have experienced dreams that have come true my entire life, but maybe what's more unusual is that I never shared this occurrence with family and friends. It wasn't until recently that I had the courage to begin exploring these dreams with a friend, and they didn't think I was crazy. So if you're interested in dreams in general, or perhaps you also have had dreams that have come true, then sit back, get cozy as I take you on a journey into the realm of my dreams.
We don't need any more heartache. May the good turn bad. Need to wake up 'cause I'm far away, so I won't go mad. Like a prisoner of time and space, locked within a cell. Want to go back to what we once had and make things unsaid. Dream catcher, save me from my dream.
Okay, where to begin? About a year ago, I had a dream that was unlike any previous dreams that I had experienced. And what this dream did for me was it raised that ancient question, fate versus free will. And basically over the last year or so, I've really sort of been reflecting and contemplating on can future events in our lives be altered? Or in fact, are events in our lives largely determined and they're fated? So before I get into the details of this specific dream that I want to share today, I thought it would be helpful if I just sort of explained what I experience when I have dreams that come true, and sort of also give you some bullet points of the qualities of these types of dreams. So the first thing is that I experience it as a series of scenes, very much like a movie. And I'm often in the scene, but I'm witnessing it like a third party, and I'm just watching the events unfold. And these dreams are incredibly vivid, and they're also very detailed. Upon waking, there's always a sense that some information has been relayed. And another component is the emotional intensity of the dream. And whether it's positive or negative in the dream, it's really intense. And usually upon awakening from these dreams, you are just inspired or motivated to get right up and write down as many details and facts about the dream. And you never forget these dreams. I mean, I can still recall dreams from like 20, 25, 30 years ago. And basically what's happened is through the years, I understand that when I'm about to meet someone very important in my life, or an important event is about to play out, that I will be shown a preview in my dreams. And there's an inner knowing in my dreams that is very much sort of like intuition. I did do a video months ago on intuition, sort of how I can determine whether it's wishful thinking or intuition, so that might be something you might want to check out. But basically the inner knowing, like the simplest example I could give you if you're not sure you've experienced it, is if someone were to ask you 1 + 1 = what? And you would be confident, you would know the answer was 2, you wouldn't be second guessing or doubting, you would know, you'd like place a bet on it, the answer is 2. It's very similar to that. It's like an inner knowing that says, hey, this dream was important, and it sort of puts you on high alert. This is my cat Emilio, by the way, who is joining us, and which is really funny because he always is the cat that sits with me when I watch paranormal shows, and I always think that he's interested in the subject matter, so cool that he's here when I'm discussing dreams today. So basically, as you can imagine, experiencing dreams that come true definitely affects your sleep. And if you're familiar at all with my channel, you'll see that there are a lot of topics that I do on sleep or energy base and things like that. So I definitely know that experiencing these dreams impacts my sleep throughout my life, because you just never know when you're going to have the next dream. And it can be anxiety provoking, because you have to determine upon waking, was that simply an anxiety dream? Was it a fantasy dream? Was it a warning dream? Or does it seem like a literal dream? Dreams overall are just shrouded in so much symbolism that I definitely every morning have to take a step back and kind of review the aspects of the dream. And probably in the last 3 or 4 years, I started writing down all of my dreams, as opposed to just ones that I believe that could have the potential to be prophetic dreams. And it is a very interesting process. And I definitely do have dreams that are more veiled in symbolism and aren't more the literal dreams. And I'd like to make a video on that maybe sometime in the future, kind of share some of my dreams and sort of do some dream interpretation. So, but anyway, so now I just wanted to, oh, well, first let me just give you an example of a dream that I had most recent. And that was, I guess he wants on the blanket. You want on the blanket? You do? How's that? Most recently I had a dream that I lost my purse. And for any women watching, you know that anxiety level. You've lost your credit cards and your driver's license and your cell phone and your keys. And I definitely was on high alert, because I didn't know if this was a warning dream or a literal dream. And then about 2 weeks later, I had the dream again. And it definitely impacted me, where I was very careful when I was out and about with my purse. But hopefully, you know, that it didn't happen. But it definitely, you know, can be disturbing. So next, I thought it would be interesting to share with you sort of like the 2 first major dreams that I experienced that actually came true. So I won't bore you with like early dreams that I would have, like maybe about a food I was going to eat or a piece of clothing I was going to buy or something like that. But this first major dream occurred when I was 18, and it was the summer before going into college. And I was basically shown myself in a series of scenes and events in which I would be meeting this man. And the overall feeling of the dream was positive. And I got up, and I remember detailing the dream in a notebook and everything. And shortly thereafter, I would say in under a week, I was on college campus, and I was there to drop off some paperwork or something, and I entered an office and immediately recognized this person from my dream. And it was really intense, and I remember just handling my paperwork very quickly, and I just wanted to like get out of there, because it's a very strange feeling to be in a scene in which you've dreamt. And so I went home and really thought, wow, that's weird. And probably in a few weeks, when college started, one of the first classes that I went to, there was this person. And we quickly introduced ourselves and began a relationship. Now, this was one of those sort of like whirlwind, intense, and then sort of crash and burn relationships. And to be honest, the way that it ended was pretty devastating and traumatic to me. And all I kept thinking was, I was so upset and angry with my dream that, why did you just show me the beginning? Had you provided some insight about the ending, I regretted these events, and I wouldn't I wanted the warning about the events, and I didn't get that. And I realize now that actually what happened is I just shut down this ability and this occurrence in my life, and I did not want a preview of events in my life anymore. And maybe I got 2 years with suppressing these types of dreams, but they came back. And the next one was just before I was going to graduate college, and I dreamt that I was like in the sky. I was sort of being shown an aerial viewpoint, and I was looking down on a river, and I was shown a series of bridges. And then in the distance, I was shown a city, and I was basically shown that I was going to have a job in which I worked with children. And when I woke up, I thought, well, that's weird. I have no idea where that river or that city is. It was unfamiliar to me. And I went to a performing arts school, and I was studying creative writing, and working with children was like not on the agenda for me. So I didn't quite know what to make of that. I thought there might be more symbolism there, and just put it out of my mind. Well, after college, I had taken a job and then decided kind of on the spur of the moment that nope, in fact, I was going to move cross country. And I ended up moving from the East Coast to the West Coast, and I moved to Portland, Oregon. And when I got there, I immediately recognized Willamette River and all of the bridges and the city. And although my initial job was working in a bookstore, I soon thereafter got a great opportunity that paid well to work with children at a day school. And I loved that job. And so there you go. That dream actually came true, and I gave it very little credence at the time that it occurred. So given all that backstory and history, I wanted to make this video today to share a dream that I had just over a year ago. It was May 30th, 2018. And it was actually a pretty brief dream, but in this dream I came upon a gypsy woman, and she was like the quintessential gypsy woman. If there was like a picture dictionary, there she was with the wrapped scarf and the jewelry, and she was sort of short in stature and very round. And I was standing there, and she came over to me and she said, "One of your pets is going to die." And sort of like out of my own personality, I sort of became very belligerent to her, and I said, "You're absolutely wrong." And I argued with her. "You've made a mistake. It's not one of my pets." And it became really intense, and I got really emotional. And then she sort of faded away. And then the next scene, I kind of turned, and I was being shown I guess what I would describe as like an animal shelter or a humane society. And what was very strange is it was two people, and one person was sitting down and the other person was standing, and they were euthanizing. The person standing began to euthanize the sitting person. And that really freaked me out in my dream. And as what usually happens if I get disturbed in a dream, I wake myself up. And of course, upon awakening, I did not like the fact that I just had a dream giving me a warning that one of my pets was going to die. And at that time, I had 7 pets in the house. And I got up that morning, and all I kept thinking, tried to use my logical mind. And I have 2 elderly pets, and they both are on medication. One has been more critically ill to the other, and it would be of no surprise to me if one of them did pass. But in the back of my mind, my intuitive mind, it kept saying, no, it's going to be your most recent cat that you acquired, and his name was Atticus. And I could wax poetic about this cat. This was an amazing cat. And I think what I'm going to do is in the coming weeks, I'd like to spotlight some of the feral cats that I've taken in, because some of them just have like extraordinary stories. So I'm going to keep this video focused and not go into the specific cat too much. But when this cat came into my life, and I've had many feral cats, and I always, in a quick amount of time, I'm able to domesticate the cats, and I try to keep my animals inside. I mean, I do live in the desert and I am near the city, and you know, it's just not safe and the climate is harsh. And I've always been pretty successful. And with this cat, he was just a wild child. And as soon as the sun was about to break in the morning, he'd basically go berserk. And he would just be digging on the door and jumping on my windows and everything. He just wanted to get out, get out, get out, get out. Like he had somewhere to go. He was late. He was late. And when I tried to not let him outside, he would just go crazy and he would start attacking other animals in the house, to the point where you were just like, please, please go outside. So I always knew that he was at most risk, even though I had older cats with health concerns, because, you know, when he's not supervised by me and I'm not with him, I don't know where he is. And it's a big world out there. And he's just a little guy. And so I really convinced myself that logically it was the other cats. And what I did that day was I let my cat Atticus out. And lo and behold, he came back. And I had always had this agreement: when I let him out at dawn, he would come back at 9 for breakfast, and I'd let him out again. And he usually would stay in the yard, and if you called him, he'd be there shortly. And then he always came back at 3 o'clock for dinner, and I would keep him inside, and I didn't let him out at night. Well, he came back that day, and I thought, well, I was right. It's probably one of the older cats. I should prepare myself that maybe one of them is going to pass shortly. So the next morning came, and I had hustle and bustle, a lot of errands to run, and I let Atticus out just like every other day, and he didn't come back. And I knew, that inner knowing, that gut feeling, I knew he was never coming back. And people would try to say, no, you know, he might show up, this, that, the other. But I knew I was never going to see him again. And of course, like, I notified neighbors, I put up signs for the neighborhood, you know, I put things on websites at the animal shelters, you know, I did everything. And he didn't show up ever again. And this was obviously extremely difficult to me. You know, animals are the loves of my life, and I take it very serious when I take an animal in who is unwanted or lost or just abandoned. And, you know, I felt like I had failed him. I'd even had a warning, and I just didn't listen to it. And, you know, I'll never know what exactly happened to him. So I decided that I was so upset and angry at this gypsy woman that every night before I went to sleep, I would be like, Gypsy woman, I want you to come back into my dream, and I want answers. Why were you so vague? Why didn't you tell me? You know, if you had told me which pet it was, could I have changed the future if I had left him inside? Or, you know, did you only tell me this because it was fated? And if you did, why did you tell me? Like, this is torturous. And I really reflected on whom this gypsy woman was, and I don't know if she was symbolic. I mean, one part of me thinks that it was like a symbolic flag in my dream, right? Showing you a woman who predicts the future, who tells you your fate and fortune. And I should have listened or known that I was being told something about the future. But then I thought, is she a spirit guide? Is she an ancestor? Is this me in a past life? Is this me in a parallel life? You know, and I have no answers. And I've never been able to have a dream with this woman again. And so about 9 months in, it was February of this year, I decided that I needed to speak to somebody. And instead of keeping these things to myself, it probably wasn't helping me. And kind of the way symbolically I thought about it was my whole life in terms of these dreams, it's sort of like being in a house and you see shadows at the window and they're knocking on it, or somebody knocks at the door and you become frightened and you hide. So, you shut the curtains and you draw the blinds and you lock the front door, and you just don't want to know who's out there and what they want. And so finally I was like opening all the windows, opening in the front door, and was just like, please come in. What do you want? Like, I'm going to address you. So in the last few years, I've studied shamanism and worked with some shamans, and I was aware that they highly value dreams, and they basically believe that our dreams are speaking to our soul, that it's a divine occurrence and it's something that should be highly respected. And they have a phrase in which they say, you need to honor dreams. And they believe that dreams are genuine messages that are helping prepare you for future events, and that you should be taking actions based on your dreams. A very different philosophy to kind of modern day interpretation of dreams. So I had heard of a woman who is a shaman, and in addition, she is an animal communicator. And I thought this would be perfect. So I made an appointment with her, and basically after telling my story, she said, yes, let's do a soul retrieval, and we'll explore this occurrence further. And if you're unfamiliar with what a soul retrieval is, I did also make a video on that. I kind of outline or explain my first experience with a shaman. So I did this a second time, and basically they have a drum that they go into a rhythmic beat to get you into like a trance-like state, meditative state. And she calls in her spirit guides, and she goes on this journey. Now, what she revealed to me about me is what I'm going to do in a second video, because I do want to stay on point here about prophetic dreaming. But I will share you with that because she had a very profound message to me regarding my relationship with animals. But probably the most important thing that happened during that appointment was after I told her about my lifetime of dreaming. She said, have you ever heard of this dream shaman? And I said no. And she said, his name is Robert Moss, and I really think you might benefit from checking out some of his books. So of course, when I came home, I immediately looked him up and started buying his books. He has like over a dozen books. They're amazing, and he's an amazing person, and his books are just so fun. And what I found was that Dreaming True, which is actually the title of one of his books, is a very common and normal experience, and I suddenly didn't feel so strange anymore. And there were other people having far more wilder experiences than I had. And he made it so commonplace and something to celebrate. And he actually has developed a technique where he combines his shamanism. When they go into meditative states, a lot of times people will gather in a circle and the shaman will drum and everybody goes into meditation. And he developed this process which is called dream re-entry. And he helped people go back into their dreams to find out more information and ask questions. And a lot of times most of us don't remember most parts of a dream anyways, and this is a technique that he developed. So I have, after reading his books, tried this technique on my own, but sometimes there are just certain things that you need to do with the assistance of others and in a group. So there are monthly sort of journey and drumming groups in my area. So as soon as my schedule fits, it is my intention to go and try this process of dream re-entry, so I can see if I can get any more details about why I was shown this dream. So, and I will put some of my favorite books by Robert Moss in the detail box below for anybody who's interested. So I think for now, that is sort of the gist of what I wanted to share with you in this video. And like I said, there are going to be several spin-off videos. I still would like to continue a series on more topics within dreams. I'd like to share my soul retrieval with the shaman with you. And then in addition, I think it would be really fun and hopefully interesting for people to sort of highlight some of the animals that have come into my life and share their stories with you, because I think they're just, animals are just so amazing. So there you go. So thanks for watching, and as always, I'm wishing everybody all the best and great health. And if you excuse me, yourself have ever experienced dreams that have come true, please let me know in the box below. I'd like to see how common it is. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.